And then you had the tolling of the bells in the background during the funeral. I noticed.
Yeah.
The
Well,
church bells.
see, now she wasn't a survivor, but isn't that interesting? She was 3 years old, and she stood up on her tiptoes and she looked out the window and she saw this thing go by. All these people carrying white boxes. What could that be? And later in life, she pieced it together. To me, that's absolutely
That was amazing.
fascinating.
It is.
That was amazing.
So,
Can I ask a question? I'm curious at this point. How did you observe yourself from your inception of this idea up till even today, up to now? Like yourself, has it changed you? Certainly it would have. And do you have thoughts about that? Like, what do you take
go
away
first.
from this whole project?
Wow, that's such a big question.
Yeah, I know.
It's really a big question. I'll try to make it simple. You know, making the film for me was like doing the impossible in a certain way. There were so many, it was this incredible dance of obstacles and triumphs, little triumphs, but it was a dance. It was like we'd go forward and something, and then we'd keep doing it, and then something would stop, and then so it was like a dance like that. And it was, there was a point, I remember it was a point of no return, because we didn't know what we were doing. How could we know? We just had a hunch. We had a really strong hunch. And there was a certain point where we had already invested so many years and so much time that even though we didn't quite know how it was going to end up, we had faith that somehow it would, and we couldn't stop. And you know, the editing was really difficult. Louis mentioned 300 hours. But I think you're asking a different question. It's really about changes, and I think I had collaborations, but I never had a collaboration quite like this, and that was very special to me, and it was a very special thing for us, you know, making the film together. And that I'm a big believer in process rather than outcome. Like if you're involved in a process that is exciting to you and that's moving you and that's energizing you, then that's the juice. Like maybe it's not going to come out, whatever.
Right.
But the process was absolutely just wonderful, and it was thrilling, and it was, you know, we challenged each other and supported each other, and you know, it was just kind of a magical kind of relationship. So it's unique. It's unique because if it was like my film, I'm sure it was his film, it would have been it's a different process, you know. So I'm actually kind of sad today because we just went up to Calumet, and we may not come back anymore. And actually, this film is, for some reason, this trip, it feels like this film is done. This film is really done. This film really has its life now outside of anything we can do to it. And it was a very incredible experience. I grew a lot. So, this is my take.
Louis, did you have any particular challenge or favorite part of the film that stands out, that you think you'll remember the most?
I always love the interviewing, so the interviewing for me was a great part of the film. You know, there were some great things that we did. We met Pete Seeger, and his wife made us soup. You know, he played the banjo for us, and you know, we had moments like that.
Odetta.
We met Odetta. You know, she sang some Woody Guthrie songs for us, which didn't end up in the film, but okay. You know, we got rejected multiple times by Bob Dylan. Even that was good. But you know, so all of that was kind of that's sort of the film we thought we were going to make, and I guess the surprise for me was that the Keweenaw turned into this magical, magnetic place that kept pulling us back, and the way the place kind of slowly disclosed itself to us was fascinating. People let us in, but only after a little while. Going to check us out first, then they let us in, and once they let us in, everything changed. And I guess that was around 2004.
Yeah, actually, it's that we once, we stayed at a farmhouse. We stayed
Yeah,
at
that's what
somebody's
it was.
farmhouse.
That was the
and-
step, that was the,
I think we were there for about 8 or 10 days. It was outside of,
it's kind of near,
outside of Calumet.
Yeah.
You know, it was a farmhouse, and we had it to ourselves, and we'd wake up early in the morning, and we'd start shooting, and we'd shoot all day. And in the summertime, this was in the summer, it was dark till 11 o'clock. We'd shoot up till 11 o'clock. We'd light till 11 o'clock. We'd go back to the house. We'd have to look at the footage that we shot that day. We'd get a few hours of sleep and start it all over again. And it was on that trip that we would say to each other, people up here are the sweetest people on earth. Like, they just, everyone suddenly, it was so sweet and so open and accommodating and kind and good-spirited, and it was so beautiful in the summer. And that's when I remember really falling in love. Like,
Yeah,
really, like, this is heaven on earth here. It doesn't get any better.